Joe Pyfer has been making waves in the UFC with back-to-back knockout victories, each one more brutal than the last. His rise has been nothing short of impressive, leaving fans wondering what's next. Will he continue his climb to the top or crumble under growing expectations? In this video, we'll explore how Pyfer became a rising star, what makes him so dangerous, and what his future holds in the competitive heavyweight division. Buckle up for an exciting breakdown! To understand where Joe Pyfer is headed, we first need to understand where he came from. Pyfer's journey into the UFC wasn't handed to him on a silver platter. No. This guy had to fight for everything, literally. Now, let's fast forward to his breakthrough moment, his entrance into Dana White's Contender series. This is where things kicked off. Imagine going in there and knowing that Dana White himself is sitting cage side, watching your every move. No pressure, right? It's like trying to ace a final exam while your teacher is breathing down your neck. But Pyfer didn't just ace that exam, he crushed it. He made a statement with a knockout win that left everyone, including Dana White, buzzing. That performance earned him a UFC contract, and that's when the real story began. This was about carving out a career, and Pyfer did just that. These punches were the kind of brutal, precise victories that made him stand up and take notice. And the way Pyfer ended those fights? The tension, the buildup, and then, bam, the lights went out for his opponents. But what makes Joe Pyfer so dangerous? Why are his punches and kicks so effective? We're about to dive into his fighting style and strategy. Here's where we start to see the brilliance behind Joe Pyfer's fighting approach. Sure, he's got knockout power, but that's not the whole story. When that moment comes, his timing is deadly. Let's take a closer look at his striking game. It's sharp, it's precise, and it's calculated. He's like a sniper in the cage when he pulls the trigger. He doesn't miss. But it's not just his hands that make him dangerous. Pyfer's footwork and cage control are just as important. And when they're trapped, that's when he strikes. I wouldn't want to be stuck in a corner with Pyfer stalking me down. You might as well hand him your lunch money at that point. But here's the thing. Pyfer isn't invincible. No fighter is. As more and more opponents study his style, the question becomes how will they adjust? And more importantly, how will Pyfer adjust when the competition starts to get tougher? The heavyweight division is full of killers. And while Pyfer's been on a roll, there's one massive challenge looming on the horizon for him. All right, let's shift gears for a second and talk about the heavyweight division. This is where legends are made. The heavyweight division has a long storied history of producing some of the greatest fighters the sport has ever seen, guys like Stipe Miocic, Francis Ngannou, and Daniel Cormier. These are men who can knock you out with a single punch. And Pyfer? He's stepping into their world now. So where does he fit in? Right now, he is in the heavyweight division and is a different beast. To climb the ranks, Pyfer will need to face some of the most dangerous men on the planet. And that's where things get interesting. Rumors are already swirling about potential matchups for Pyfer. Some are saying he could be looking at a fight with a veteran heavyweight, a gatekeeper, if you will. A fight like that could be a defining moment in his career. Win, and he's on the fast track to a title shot. Lose, and it could derail all of his momentum. But the twist. The UFC isn't going to make it easy for him. They know how to test their fighters. Pyfer might be riding high now, but the competition is only going to get tougher from here. And the question is, does Pyfer have what it takes to beat the best of the best? To stand toe-to-toe with the legends of the sport? The fear of failure is real, but so is the excitement. Because with great risk comes the possibility of great reward. If Pyfer can survive the storm, he could find himself standing at the top of the division with a title shot in the future. But let's not get ahead of ourselves just yet. Before Pyfer can even think about a title shot, there's one key challenge he's going to have to face. And it could change everything. All right, so here's the million-dollar question. What's next for Joe Pyfer? He's made a name for himself. He's on a winning streak, and the fans are starting to take notice. But the UFC is all about the "what have you done for me lately?" and mentality. and Pyfer's next fight could define his future. There's already buzz about him potentially facing a top 10 heavyweight. This would be his biggest test yet. A win here could propel him into title contention. But here's where the stakes get even higher. A loss at this stage could slow his momentum and force him to rebuild all the hype he's worked so hard to create. The heavyweight division is unforgiving. Just ask the countless fighters who've had meteoric rises, only to crash down after a single misstep. Every opponent Pyfer faces from here on out will be stronger, smarter, and more dangerous. So, how will he handle it? Will he buckle under the pressure? Or will he thrive like we've seen him do so far? And speaking of thriving, let's talk about the kind of fighter Pyfer needs to evolve into if he's going to make it to the very top. Because while the knockout power is undeniable, there are other elements of his game that he'll need to sharpen. To truly break through in the heavyweight division, Pyfer needs more than just raw power. He needs versatility. The best fighters, the ones who hold championship gold, are the ones who can adapt. Look at the legends guys like Stipe Miocic or even John Jones, who recently moved up to heavyweight. These fighters can wrestle, they can strike, they can submit you. They are multi-dimensional. And if Pyfer wants to be mentioned in that same breath, he's going to need to show us more than just knockout power. He's going to need to show us ground game dominance, submission skills, and cardio that can go 5 rounds in a title fight. Right now, Pyfer is exciting, no doubt about that. But to make it to the top, he has to become a complete fighter. So what should we expect from him in his next fight? Well, if Pyfer's smart, and based on what we've seen so far, he's more than capable of being strategic, he'll come in with a game plan that covers all bases. He'll be patient. He'll wait for his moment to strike. But if his opponent tries to wrestle him or take him into deep waters, Pyfer's got to prove that he can swim. And, let's face it, nobody likes to see a one-trick pony in the UFC. Unless your trick is knocking people out cold in under 2 minutes, then, by all means, keep doing what you're doing, Joe. But jokes aside, the evolution of Joe Pyfer will be key to his long-term success. He's already got the power and the knockout ability. Now we need to see him build the rest of his game. And here's the part that gets interesting. What if Joe Pyfer isn't just a knockout artist? What if he's a future UFC champion in the making? Someone who can go toe-to-toe with the best heavyweights in the world? What if Pyfer becomes a fighter who's not just feared but respected by everyone in the division? So, what does the future hold for Joe Pyfer? If you look at the trajectory of his career so far, it's clear that he's got something special. You don't just win back-to-back stoppages in the UFC by accident. This is a guy who has the talent, the mindset, and the hunger to go all the way. But we all know that talent alone isn't enough. The UFC is a brutal sport. One moment, you're on top of the world, and the next, you're a stepping stone for someone else's career. Right now, Pyfer is at a crossroads. He's in the prime position to make a serious run at the heavyweight title, but the road ahead is littered with challenges. There are veterans who have been in this game for years, and they're not going to let Pyfer climb the ranks without a fight. There are young, hungry fighters who are looking at Pyfer as their opportunity to make a name for themselves. And, of course, there's the looming shadow of championship. Caliber fighters, guys like Tom Aspinall, Sergey Pavlovich, and even John Jones. The question is, can Pyfer navigate these treacherous waters and continue his rise? And even more pressing, does Joe Pyfer have what it takes to not just compete with the best, but to beat them? Because if he does, then we're not just talking about a rising star. We're talking about the potential for a UFC heavyweight champion. And that's where the story of Joe Pyfer gets truly fascinating. He's been doubted before. He's been overlooked. But time and time again, he's proven that he belongs. And maybe, just maybe, we're witnessing the birth of a future legend in the sport. So what do you think? Is Joe Pyfer the real deal? Can he overcome the challenges that lie ahead and make a serious run for the heavyweight title? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I want to hear what you think.